Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So Duskblade of Draktharr has been out on the live servers for a few days now. And I feel like one of the most common questions a lot of people have at the moment is, on what champions is this item even good on or strong on? And well, that's the purpose of this video, to give you guys a better idea, hopefully, on what champions I think this item is good on and not so good on. Keep in mind that the item is still somewhat new, and these are more of just my thoughts and predictions with a bit of actual experience. Within the next while, as the item is used more and more and more, we'll all have a better idea on what champions it really does excel at and on what champions it's maybe not so good at. But regardless, I essentially made a tier list of tier A champions, B champions, and C champions, grouping them up in what I think are good champions, so-so champions, and not so good champions for Duskblade of Draktharr. So first off, let's just quickly talk about this item. I mean, what was Riot's intent in making this item, and on what kind of champions should this item excel at? So first and foremost, this item was not made specifically to assist AD assassins or AD bruiser type champions to kill squishies. Riot said that as an assassin champion, if you are going to be killing a squishy champion within the first 2 seconds, this item shouldn't really help you in terms of the passive effect. But the raw stats from it, like the flat AD, the armor penetration, and even maybe the move speed, are quite useful. The passive, which is the main thing about this item that a lot of people are looking at, is essentially made to help you kill the harder to kill targets, so maybe the half tanks or the full tank champions. And this is the whole reason and purpose behind the item having not only 2 seconds before it actually does its damage from the passive effect, but also giving you the chance of giving back the effect. So the item is essentially made for champions that have great bursts and not champions that have more sustained damage, so maybe someone like a Fiora. And in my mind at the moment, there are 2 reasons why this item benefits burst champions the most. So the first one is essentially letting Duskblade do the work for you, where you go in on a target, you do your burst damage or you do your full rotation, and then you let the Duskblade item finish them off, similar to how a Zed will let his ultimate finish off the target with the pop. Now what this does for the assassin champion is it puts them in less of a dire situation. It doesn't require the assassin champion to stay within the fight or within the duel as long as they normally would. Because theoretically the champion you're trying to kill has essentially less overall or effective HP in terms of your duel and what HP you have to get them to in order to actually kill them. Using Talon as an example, you jump on your target, you do your full burst rotation, but then you use the second part of your ultimate with the invisibility to escape. So technically from your own skills, you're actually doing less damage because this item will take care of the rest of the HP, so you can not only save time from maybe taking even more damage and putting yourself at the risk of dying, but you're able to use your defensive abilities that assassins have only very little of to actually make an escape. And the second reason I think it's good on burst type champions is, well, I mean, the fact that this item gives you back the effect if you kill the target within the first 2 seconds of autoing them. For the most part, in most scenarios, if you're playing an assassin champion, so maybe Zed, Talon, or whatever, you shouldn't be using this passive to kill a squishy champion, so maybe like the marksman. Your burst damage alone should be enough to kill the squishy targets regardless of the passive. So the idea here is to kill them fast enough, get the passive back, and reapply it on a harder to kill target. But if you're someone that has sustained damage, so someone that has a lot of damage dealt over a period of time rather than just a big chunk of damage in a very short amount of time, chances are this item will pop its effect before you can kill your target, again because you're simply not able to burst the target down within 2 seconds, though maybe over the course of 6 seconds you'll be able to do more damage. So what I'm saying here is that burst champions will be able to make use of this passive more effectively in many more different scenarios and situations. So now that you have hopefully a better idea of the intent of this item and what champions I personally think it should be good on or excel at, let's get right into the tier list. So let's start things off with the A tier, which is the highest tier I'll be talking about in this video. So the champions I feel like should be excelling with this item are Zed, Kha'Zix, Rengar, and Talon. Now the reason for this is because, well, first of all, these are the traditional AD assassin type champions. All of these champions have a very easy way to get onto their target, deal whatever damage they have in their full rotation, have some form of escape, and can also burst quickly. To me, all these factors are very important when taking into account how effective Duskblade will be on a champion. And all of these champions heavily benefit from raw AD and armor penetration stats, and don't really rely on other stats like maybe attack speed or critical strike. So all of these champions have a form of mobility or leap, so they can get onto the target that they want to kill very easily, and then if they have to, they can switch targets right after. Whether it's Zed with his shadows, Kha'Zix with his upgraded jump, Rengar with his invisible ultimate leap, or Talon with his E and or ultimate invisibility. And all 4 of these champions are without question able to burst down a squishy champion, which is extremely important. Again, the ideal scenario is not to use Duskblade's passive on a squishy, it is to kill the target fast enough to get the passive back to then reapply it on a harder to kill target. And since these champions kits are made to burst the champion down before 2 seconds, it works exceptionally well. But worst comes to worst, if you really need to, you can also have the passive do the damage for you instead. Now, the only champion of these 4 that I feel like I'm a little hesitant on including in the A tier is Kha'Zix. Now, in my mind, I feel like he should be really good because you can jump on your opponent, you can auto attack to proc your passive Q, and then the item will start procking in 2 seconds while you go invisible to reset, and you can use the invisibility to really just make the item do the damage and go in for the kill after that. Or you can have the item finish off the target while you go invisible in your ultimate, wait for the item to do the damage, kills the target, gets your free reset on your E, and you can jump back out. But sometimes Kha'Zix's rotation or assassination combo doesn't really require an auto attack, and it just requires a jump, E, Tiamat, and W, which is the only thing that's kind of holding me back a little bit, because I mean, having an auto attack inside your combo or your rotation is really important because that's the only way to apply Duskblade's passive. But either way, I believe these are the 4 champions that should, in my mind, excel with this item. But now that we got that out of the way, let's move down the line and talk next about the B tier champions. So in this tier list, or in this section, I have Lee Sin, Wukong, Riven, Jarvan IV, Nocturne, and Shaco. Now in the B tier, the thing I'm looking for the most is, can this champion jump on the target and just more or less obliterate the target with ease? And well, for most of these champions, they can definitely get to their target that they want to get to fairly easily, especially champions like Jarvan, Nocturne, or Shaco. All of these champions, if you build obviously more or less full AD, do have a lot of damage within their kit as well. And for the most part, they do treat this item similar to how the champions in tier A do as well. But the reason these champions are in B tier, not A, is because for the most part, when they go in for the kill, chances are they won't be getting out, except for maybe Lee Sin. I mean, they have all a ridiculous amount of damage within their kit. They can probably burst down a target within 2 seconds if they're full AD. But again, except for maybe Lee Sin, their mobility isn't as fantastic. And now the reason I say they aren't as adept as straight up assassinating one target as the A tier champions is because, well, most of these champions I have listed here will require defensive items within their kit, mainly because of just how not mobile they can really be. They're champions that will dive in the middle of a team fight, do their thing, and chances are they will, at the end of the fight, remain inside of it still. Duskblade, of course, not offering any defensive stats. Well, I mean, these champions probably will want some defensive stats, and the offensive items that they do get, there's just better options. Either way though, if you're trying to just cheese your opponents or maybe just really heavily snowball the game with any of these champions, Duskblade should do its job quite well, mainly because of the stats you get from the item like the flat AD, the move speed, and the armor penetration, while still being able to burst the target down usually within the 2 seconds to get the passive back and then use it on tank. And now the final tier we'll be talking about in this video is going to be the C tier. So I decided to put champions such as Vi, Yasuo, Quinn, Xin, Jace, Vayne, and Twitch. Now I feel like Vi eventually might move up to B tier because I feel like she does fit the same playstyle of the B tier champions, but for now I decided to keep it safe and put her in C. Because Vi, like the other champions, does require a decent amount of tanky items as well in order to really be beneficial to her team, unless of course again you're trying to just full out cheese your opponents and heavily snowball the game. Now these champions are here because I personally feel like this new item with the passive effect doesn't synergize with their kit as well as the other champions in the higher tiers. Champions like Jace, Vayne, and Twitch, who are more or less marksman type champions, are in the C tier as well because I mean, even though I feel like they may have potential with the item, not only will they be having to hit the front line and not be able to go to the back line to kill the target very quickly and then get the passive back and then kill the tanky champions, but they have to apply the passive of Duskblade a little too early because obviously they rely on their auto attacks and they are more or less consistent damage dealing type champions versus bursting someone down in 2 seconds. Xin is somewhat bursty, but he doesn't have the best potential to really dive to the backline because the range on his E ability isn't anything completely absurd. Quinn falls under the same thing as Jace, Vayne, and Twitch, and Yasuo is very similar to consistent damage dealing type champions versus just flat out burst. On top of Yasuo just having so many other items that he just prioritizes like Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, or Triforce, maybe something like a Vampiric Scepter into Bloodthirster or Blade of the Rune King. It just doesn't feel like Duskblade fits his item style at all. But that is about it for this video, guys. I mean, that's kind of a rough idea on what champions I feel like will be benefiting off of this item the most, and hopefully give you a better idea on what champions you should be trying this item out to begin with. Again, please don't forget, this is more or less my early impressions of the item. It is still fairly new. It's only been on the live service for a few days, but this is to give you guys an idea on what I'm currently thinking and what hopefully you guys should be thinking as well. As time goes on, as we experience this item more and more and more and see it more often, we'll have a better idea, and maybe I'll update this list eventually. But either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends so that more people have a better idea on what champions this item can excel at. Make sure to definitely check out my other videos as well and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you for the next video. Peace.